In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of American Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and let's get this started. We're going to start our Black History reflection tonight with a reflection on A. Philip Randolph. A. Philip Randolph taught us that economic justice is a cornerstone of civil rights. As the architect of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and a visionary behind the March on Washington, Randolph understood that dignity begins with opportunity, the opportunity to work, to earn, to build, and to rise. He believed that when people gain access to employment, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship, they gain the power to transform their families and communities for generations. Tonight, as we welcome Immanuel Ivey, a man who has spent more than 2 decades building pathways to economic mobility, workforce empowerment, and community restoration, we honor Randolph's legacy. Emmanuel's work stands firmly in that lineage, equipping people with the tools to rise, reclaim their futures, and rewrite their stories. Now, to jump into introducing our guests. Welcome to American Black and White, where we elevate the voices shaping our communities, challenging our systems, and building the future one life at a time. Tonight, we focus on a leader whose work sits at the intersection of empowerment, opportunity, and transformation. For more than 23 years, Immanuel Ivey has been a force in workforce development, entrepreneurship, financial coaching, youth empowerment, and community ministry. His leadership is not theoretical, it is lived, practiced, and rooted in service. From executive leadership roles to entrepreneurship, from his mentoring youth to visiting jails, from financial counseling to community restoration, Emmanuel has dedicated his life to helping people rise. His story is one of resilience, purpose, and unwavering commitment to the people of Central Indiana. Tonight, we explore his journey, his mission, and the legacy he continues to build. Ladies and gentlemen, Immanuel Ivey. Welcome to the show, sir.
All right, Mr. King, thank you for having me, sir.
Yes, sir. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get going into the show?
Um, just thankful to be here to share about my life, my journey, everything that I've done thus far. But there's a lot more for me to do. So just thankful for this opportunity to be on your show.
I more than appreciate it, and I'm definitely looking forward to it because, just like of the our guest that's in the month of February, those in January as well. We booked this show like maybe 6+ months ago, and I'm very happy and proud that you're here today.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Let's start with, as I say, I like to let people get the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, to get comfortable with you before we talk about all the work that you're doing. Let's
Mhm.
talk about what were your early experiences that shaped your passion for service and community development.
Um, well, to be honest, I kind of stumbled in it. Um, when I was in college. Went to FAMU, Florida A&M University. Was there for 2 years, and then got into some trouble. Got locked up. Was on probation with the state and the school, and my mama said, "Get your butt back home." So transferred to Indiana State University, where I got my undergrad in marketing with a specialization in advertisement, and then went on and pursued my graduate's degree in human resource development. So with that, when I was there, me and one of my guys, we started a promotional entertainment company. So we would throw parties on campus, off campus, in clubs, promote other parties and events. Did rap battles, and so we actually threw a party on our homecoming weekend. Now, if I was smart, I would have threw it the weekend before because nothing was going on. But I threw it on that Friday night where like all the sororities, fraternities had their party as well. So from that, we just made enough money just to pay all of our expenses, and that was it, literally. So I was feeling down, feeling bad. I called my mother up, and she was like, "Well, God don't want you to be throwing parties and have everybody drunk and high." I said, "Mommy, you're right." So she was like, "Give back to the community." So I said, "All right." So homecoming was actually um, around Halloween that year. So of course, the next holiday is Thanksgiving. So I actually teamed up with the church that I was going to at the time. Um, hmm, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. But I was going to the church, and I actually teamed up with the community center down there, St. Charles. No, excuse me, the Heights Center. And then from there, we collected food and did a food and turkey drive for the town or city of Terre Haute. So that kind of really started my community work. So we actually did that for 3 consecutive years, and then from there, I graduated. But that's kind of how it all started. Throwing parties, and then had one horrible one. But then from there, really, giving back to the community, especially to the community that I'm not even from. So to me, that was a little extra special for me.
So, who were the mentors or influences that guided your path?
Well, I would say one, my father. He had the first um, hip hop clothing store here in Indianapolis, like back in the '70s, um, called the Joint Boutique. So just looking at him and just seeing how he worked, and how he grinded it out through all those years. I mean, he's been in business for over 40 years. He doesn't have his actual brick and mortar, but he still sells, on the corner off 30th and Keystone, at 80 years old. So just seeing him throughout all my life. For years, my mother didn't work. Excuse me. She took care of the household. So like really kind of through my upper elementary years, all the way during college, um, my father really held it down. So just really getting my drive, my work ethic from him, but also just seeing that he truly um, treated every customer the same, with respect, with dignity. In the later years, we were right off of 22nd and Central, and back in the day, in the '80s and '90s, that area was called Dodge City. A lot of drug dealing, gang activity. Um, but just him, really showing respect to everybody that came through. from homeless individuals, prostitutes, drug dealers, your average blue collar, and or white collar worker. He didn't turn anybody away. At times when individuals didn't have it, he provided discounts. I remember during Christmas, like during the '90s, for years, it was this homeless lady named Coco. Rest in peace, Coco. But if you're from Indianapolis on the east side, you know or have heard of Coco. She would kind of roam the streets, literally. You'll be parked at a stoplight, and she'll come up to your car, ask for money. But in saying that, every I'm not gonna say every Christmas, but a lot of Christmases during the '90s, my father would feed her. I mean, he'll of course close his shop, but he'll be there, and she'll come, and I mean, he'll feed her. So it's just like, wow, just kind of seeing my father do that without like nobody knowing. I mean, it wasn't like he was broadcasting that he was doing this. It was like, all right, come up to the shop, and then also with having a clothing store and it being popular. Like during Christmas time, like people would try to break in. So they'll break windows. My father had bars on the windows, so they really couldn't get any merchandise or anything, but just the hassle of having to board it up, and then paying the extra expense to get it fixed. But just to see every Christmas he would do that, just like, man, that really stuck with me through all these years, and that was like 30 years ago.
So, what did you learn or get from your father for the example that he set in the leadership, the structure, the business discipline, the ability to continue to raise and do his business throughout what could have been chaotic situations? What did you learn from that?
Um, I learned that no matter what happens or what goes on within your life, you have to keep pushing forward. There's always going to be obstacles and barriers that you may face, and with that, my father faced plenty of barriers. I mean, there were times where we did not have a Christmas. We didn't have gifts. Now, my mother did say at times when me and my siblings didn't deserve it, just because our behavior at school or at home. But I know that there were times where we didn't have a good Christmas as far as sales, from my father's shop. So just having to sacrifice those times throughout my life, but understanding that you know um, I mean, that's temporary, especially just getting gifts on Christmas. Christmas is much bigger than that. For me as a believer, that they, state that Christ was born or is a representation of that. But at the same time, just knowing the real reason for it, to love others, to give, rather than to receive. But really, ultimately, just sacrificing, his time, his labor, for the community, but also for our family.
Mm. Well, we got there's a comment here in the chat. This is from Misha. She says, "Blessings to host and guests. Thank you for tuning in, Misha. Is there anything you'd like to say to the guests, to the audience? Is there anything you'd like to say to that?" Well, so at any rate, so how did your upbringing in Indiana shape your worldview?
Wow. So, growing up in Indianapolis, Indiana, I was born in the '80s. Grew up in the '90s. Um, the landscape back then was primarily black and white. You had your Hispanics, Mexicans, South Americans, but they were kind of um, like designated in certain areas. So the world to me, honestly, for years was just black and white. I didn't until I went to college down there, FAMU, was when I realized, hey, there, are more individuals in this world than just black and white people. Also, I had to know and understand that um, just because you speak Spanish doesn't mean that you're Mexican. So, in Florida, you have Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Dominican Republicans, all types of people from South America. So that was very eye opening to me because I just thought everybody that was brown skinned and spoke Spanish was Mexican. It was very ignorant of me, but at the same time, I mean that's where I came from, and that's all I knew. Um, but from there, coming back to Indiana, going to Indiana State in college, I did recognize that all black people aren't good and all white people aren't bad. Going from coming from a historically black college to now at Indiana State at a PWI, I had a lot of cool white friends, from the countries, from the country of Indiana. There's a few like big cities, I would say, in Indiana. You have Indianapolis, the biggest city. Then you have Fort Wayne, and then you have like the region up in Gary, Indiana, East Chicago, and Hammond. So that's kind of where a lot of black people are. But the rest of the state is very rural, a lot of small towns. But unfortunately, a lot of sundown towns as well. So, living in Indianapolis, you have sundown towns in Hamilton County, and that's north of Indianapolis, and then Johnson County is south of Indianapolis. And there were some towns in that you either couldn't go to or drive through, or you better be out by 6 o'clock or when that sun goes down. So, experiencing racism was very prevalent in Indianapolis with the cops, but also going to Indiana State, going to a town called Terre Haute. There was I think it's like West Terre Haute, where you're not supposed to go to, and if you do, you better either just drive through or go in and out. So that's kind of what my experiences were. But at the same time, I love my city. We call it Nap or Nap Town. And still to this day, there's a lot of opportunity. You just got to really search for it and seek it out.
Well, it was kind of like well, you was probably most likely was reading my mind because I wanted to ask you if you could give us a comparison of being in Tallahassee, Florida,
Mm.
Terre Haute, Indiana, and Indianapolis, Indiana. What were the differences, and how did you take on those experiences?
Well, the main difference, especially in Tallahassee, but really just down south, because I used to visit Atlanta a lot as well. My cousin stayed there, so except coming all the way home for Thanksgiving or other holidays, I'll just go to Atlanta. So just to see, black people, really, prosper. A lot of um, black people had businesses, and a lot of people were in politics. So I really didn't see that in Indianapolis. I mean, we had a few. One of my mentors, Representative Greg Porter. He's a House representative here in Indiana, but just seeing a lot of, honestly, black unity. We were at a HBCU, so it's a totally different atmosphere, culture compared to a predominantly white institution, a PWI. Um, you know, everybody kind of jokes that Indiana State is like the black college or the black university of Indiana, um, but like I said, just seeing the unity and just seeing a lot of black people just um, um, really have it going on. Either as professionals, professors, businessmen and women, politicians. I mean, it was just amazing to me. So coming home and transferring to Indiana State. You really don't see that. But you know, our university president and vice president was black. You know, so they were my first black president. You know, outside of President Obama. So it was good to see that because, like I said, in Terre Haute, Indiana State is a PWI. So just to see them, as far as the student union and them getting voted into the president, vice president of Indiana State was really remarkable. Um, but then, understanding that, they say that Indiana is like the little Mississippi, you know, it is stated that the KKK was formed or based out of Indiana. I mean, it was to the point in the 1920s and 30s where the mayor of Indianapolis to several mayors around the state were involved in the KKK and were members, and the governor as well. So when you have politicians and regular your average Joe, in that an organization or their cult or whatever it is, it does say a lot, about the state and the issues and the barriers that we've had as Black people in Indiana.
Well, Misha just put another comment here in the chat, and she says, "This is a great conversation. I grew up within the same group setting, Hispanics, Caribbean, and Black Dominicans in Brooklyn, New York. Can you speak to that experience?"
Who, for me?
Yes. Can you speak to that experience? I mean, is that a little bit relative to the experience that you just explained and the differences of the three cities that I asked you to talk about just then?
Yeah. Well, I guess now, honestly, in Indianapolis, we are becoming very diverse culturally. Um, where I stay out in the far east side now. I'm from the east side, Martindale, Brightwood, which is primarily Black. I probably say growing up, it was like 99% Black. Now, now due to gentrification, it's about 85% Black, and then we have other races now. But where I live at, in the far east side, we do have a lot of Mexicans, a lot of individuals from Central America, but also a lot of Haitians as well. When you get kind of to the west side of Indianapolis, that's where a lot of the Africans are, as far as Nigerians, individuals from Ghana, Senegal, Liberia. So the West Side is more, they have more of a diverse cultures over there, rather than kind of the East Side where we're at, which is primarily Black, white, Mexican, Central Americans. But so it is different now. You know, just the language barrier. At times the cultural barrier. You think somebody is one way or Black or foundational Black American, but they're not. And it's like we look alike, but I mean we're miles apart, honestly. So, but I do understand kind of how it is up in New York. I do got a family in New York. One of my cousins is from Harlem. She stayed, right there by the Rutgers. So, I would go out there and visit her. And I had a few other cousins that used to live in New York, and I would come up and visit. So, I mean, I loved it going up there. Just to be around all those different races and cultures and things like that. So it's I'm not gonna say Indianapolis is anything close to New York, but as far as this the diversity of cultures now is very relevant in Indianapolis.
So when did you first realize you were called to leadership?
Man, to be honest, it was like in elementary. I was
Okay.
actually Miss Bolaños. She was our principal, and I guess we had like our after school like programs and activities, and I was selected. I had to been either first or second grade. I was selected in that leadership program, which, I mean, as a child, I'm like, man, why I gotta be here? Like all my guys, they were playing basketball or playing outside on the playground, but I had to be in this after school program. So as a youngster, I didn't know and understand like why am I here? So I honestly didn't take advantage of it until I got a little older. But it was like second or third grade when my principal kind of recognized that I am a leader.
Mm. What personal challenges help you define your purpose?
Hmm. Well, honestly, I would say being a black man in America, um, very challenging. Growing up in Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, um, you know, a lot of my guys that I grew up in, in the hood, um, I would like to one just thank them because um, I'm from the hood, but I'm not from the streets, and it's
Mm.
a huge difference. Um, my guys, on 16th to Arsenal was in the streets, but they really, encouraged me, not to, sell drugs, not to, really get involved in the gang culture. Um, because I was in school. I played sports in high school. I was on varsity football and the varsity track. Played freshman and JV basketball. So they thought that I was going to the NFL or something. So they really, discouraged me to, do those activities that they were doing. They, just kind of told me to, stay in school. Don't act um, or be like us. So for them to do it and say that back then in the '90s, where this the crack era, I mean, it was bumping, and everybody was doing it, and but to encourage me not to, but to kind of stay on that straight and narrow path, I give a lot to them, for doing that, because unfortunately, a lot of individuals who grow up in the hood don't have friends that encourage them to be positive, rather than, hey, let's do this, negative things and activities, to impress others, but also, that's just kind of how the environment was, unfortunately, back then.
Mm. So let's transition over to your professional work in leadership.
Mhm.
What does your role as executive director of Edna Martin CBDO LLC entail?
Yes, so CBDO is an acronym for Community-Based Development Organization. So with that, I oversee our affordable housing, community, and economic development for Martindale Brightwood, and that's the community that we're in. Um, Edna Martin CBDO is actually a subsidiary of Edna Martin Christian Center. So Edna Martin Christian Center is a full service, full full social service entity or organization. We have a child care 6 months through 5 years old. Then we have a youth programming from kindergarten through your senior in high school. Then you have your adult programming, which I used to oversee, which we have, trainings, reentry, entrepreneurship, workforce development, and education. And then we have our senior programming called Senior Angels for individuals 55 and up. So, in saying all of that, the subsidiary came out of what we call our quality of life plan. So, with our quality of life plan, there are 10 pillars It's arts and culture, education, um, economic development, environmental justice, health and wellness, housing and infrastructure, neighborhood engagement, public safety, workforce development, and youth engagement. So we update our quality of life plan every 5 years. So the previous quality of life plan um, under the housing pillar, there was a need for affordable housing in Martindale Brightwood. Like I spoke about earlier, there was or there is a lot of gentrification coming from uh, the west side of Martindale Brightwood on the border, and it's moving east. So a lot of individuals who grew up there, which for me, I'm a I'm a third generation, and it's really four generations that were born and raised in Martindale Brightwood within my family. Individuals that I grew up with, their grandparents are, being priced out, and or can't pay um, their property taxes, or if they do pay their property taxes, they can't, fix their home up on small maintenance or repairs. So that's kind of where the CBDO was birthed from the quality of life plan to make sure that we are developing affordable housing stock within the community. Now there are additional entities that do affordable housing as well. We have the Martindale Brightwood CDC. We have a organization called Intend Indiana, another one called INHP. But even though that we have three additional entities that develop affordable housing within Martindale Brightwood, there's still a major need for it. So that's where I come in to help and develop that. So we currently develop, we do full renovations and new builds as well. So that's kind of how this organization has came about, but also kind of just with the community development aspect of it. I do oversee now our quality of life plan. So, like I said, we have 10 different pillars within the plan, and we have and the plan was actually developed by the residents, community partners, and stakeholders. So this plan was updated back in 2024. It took about a year and a half to update it. And then from there, in the first quarter of 2025, we actually got our plan city certified. So now the city of Indianapolis recognizes our plan. So we just can't have anybody come into our neighborhood to develop or to try to take over. These are our goals and strategies for the next 5 years from 25 through 2030. And these are the residents, these are the community partners and stakeholders that drive the goals and strategies for the next 5 years. So that's kind of what I do and oversee as the executive director.
So, so as that new plan has been implemented, and I'm sure now it's working its way through the system, what is it that your community people, the people that this is meant to help or to impact in the best way, what are some of the things that you can tell them at this point? What to look for, what to be mindful about, but also how can they succeed?
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question. So is that the residents
Yes,
or
the people out there in the communities, how can they benefit from, what should they be listening for? What can you
yeah,
tell them? How they can benefit from this, how they can grow from this, how they can succeed with this, and what should they be looking for?
okay. So first, in order to benefit from this quality of life plan, you have to be engaged. Um, at the Martin Christian Center, we are one of the oldest um, um, black led organizations in Indiana. 85 years, and one of the biggest as well. We have over 80 staff, and our budget is roughly about 7 million a year. So we didn't want to like develop the quality of life plan and everybody community say, oh, that's Edna Martin's plan. No, we were very intentional about one, having a third party come in to kind of facilitate the plan with town halls, with focus groups, with advisory committees and things like that. But also we really wanted the residents to be involved and to share their concerns about the community, but also what goals that they would like to meet and obtain. So in saying that, if the residents are not engaged, then the plan will do nothing for them. So that's kind of one of my goals now, is like our theme last year and this year is hello neighbor. And the reason it's hello neighbor is because we want to get to know our neighbors and who we are. Me growing up in Martindale, Brightwood, we knew our neighbors. I mean, it was like on my street from 15th and Arsenal to 18th and Arsenal, it was like everybody's grandma's house, and like kind of how our neighborhood is not structured, but the houses, like a lot of them are doubles. So the grandmother will stay on one side, or the grandfather, and then the mother and the children will stay on the other side. So that's kind of how from 15th and Arsenal to 18th and Arsenal, that's how it is. So a lot of us grew up there, but as we got older, we moved out. But now Martindale Brightwood is real transit. So a lot of people when I grew up like owned their homes, but now those homeowners are passing away, or gentrification is coming in and they're giving people pennies on a dollar for their properties. So in saying that, we don't know the residents or our neighbors like we used to back in the day. So really kind of informing them on, hey, this is the quality of life. These are the goals that you all said, or some of you all said that you want to do. Now, these are the entities, the companies, the organizations that are in charge to fulfill, this actual plan. So like, for example, one of our pillars, um, one of our pillars is environmental justice. So what's going on now in Martindale Brightwood is there is a data center that wants to be in our neighborhood. That's
Mm.
going to, yes, that's going to affect our environment. So that is some injustice that we have within our neighborhood. The city did not think that we were going to organize and come together. We have organized and we have come together to dispute, and we do not want this data center here. It is going to affect our property taxes. They're going to increase. It's going to affect our electric bills. The site that they want to build it on is a brownfield, which is contaminated. Now, in Martindale Brightwood, back in the 60s, there was a lead plant that blew up. For 2 days, there was black smoke in the air for 2 days.
Oh,
That
wow.
smoke came down and affected a lot of people's soil. So they couldn't even, because back in the day, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they were growing their own food in their backyard.
Yes, sir.
So now you have contaminated soil, which you're trying to grow food in, which now has caused cancer in people. I'm 44. There's so many people with cancer in their 30s and 40s and 50s now. Like, this isn't just a 60s and 70-year-old disease anymore. So Martindale. Okay, let me go back a little bit. So Martindale Brightwood was like the second oldest black neighborhood in Indianapolis. So everybody, all the blacks were either downtown and or went to Martindale Brightwood, which is about 5 minutes from downtown. So there has, historically been redlining. We can't get loans. We got contaminated soil. We got contaminated lead paint. So now you want to come and bring this data center that nobody wants. So in saying all of that, we have rounded up the troops. We've gone to public hearings. We have, a website. We have a Facebook page. We've had public meetings, town halls. So, like, this is one example of a pillar, the environmental justice, in rounding up the troops, letting the residents be informed, but not just informed. Okay, these are the actions that we have to take to combat this data center coming through. Unfortunately, in the public hearing, the hearing examiner 2 weeks ago did approve it. So now we're going to appeal, and the appeal is actually next week. So we're still rounding up the troops. We're having our residents, our community partners, our stakeholders go down to the city council building at this public hearing and at this appeal to show that the neighborhood does not want this. The sad thing about it is our city councilman is for it. So he's not even listening to his constituents. So we feel that something's happening under the table, because how are you for this and you have a whole community that says we do not want this in? I mean, there's a township called Pike Township, which is like northwest. There's another township called Franklin Township, which is like southeast from Martindale Brightwood. They're having the same issues, but their city councilmen and women are not in favor for it. So those developers have already backed out. Our developer is still at the table for the simple fact that our city councilman wants it. So these are the issues that we're having. But also within the quality of life plan, we have neighbor engagement. So these town halls, these focus groups, these informational meetings that we're having about this data center is very critical to inform our residents, because one of the main arguments with our city councilman is, hey, half the people in this room isn't even from Martindale Brightwood. Well, who cares? Because the other half are. The other half that's not are our allies. These are the ones that down in Franklin Township, when they protested against that data center, they're helping us out with manpower, with additional information. So that's what it's all about on this quality of life plan. The other issue that I'm having as well is, okay, this data center just can't be the main focus. We have to inform them about the other pillars so they can be engaged, so we don't have other entities coming in to try to take over our community and neighborhood. So go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
No, but so I'm just saying that it's very challenging. One, because we want the community involved, but then two, I mean, how do we reach them if we don't have like a major issue going on? The major issue is the data center. Everybody's on board. But how about the other pillars like youth engagement, or about workforce development, or even economic development, bringing businesses that are for the community, not just ones, excuse my language, that are going to rape the community?
Well, you know something? I'll tell you this. I know you're exactly right when you talk about those data centers. Here in Metro Atlanta, where I live, out here in Douglas County, that very thing is happening right now. And you're right about the effects, and a lot of people just they haven't caught up with that part yet. Because when you talk about the utilities, when you're talking about all the surrounding environment and pretty much everything that we, the community, are facing, where we're having to pay these higher tax bills and everything else for that data center, which nothing is coming back to us. It's all about them. So it's like now we're starting to have like these little glitches with internet speed and all of that other good stuff, because everything is mainly focused on that data center. I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So even, with our power, it's 2026 and we still have power outages, on a frequent basis. So now you about to put this data center in our community. I mean, I
Hmm.
mean, we about to have blackouts here pretty soon, because they will be extracting all the power. And then also, because I was wondering, I'm like, why are we having so much power outages? Well, with this gentrification also in our neighborhood, now instead of just having single family homes, which traditionally that was all Martindale Brightwood single family homes. So now we have, multi-family, mixed use. So now we got apartments everywhere. So instead of having, 100 people or 100 homes within the community, we have over 200-300 people in these apartment complexes, which is using more power. So it's like, man, so our power grid is isn't sustainable for the community that we have right now. Now you about to bring in this data center that takes as much of power as a small town called like Muncie. It's like, come on now. So um yeah, so these are, some of the critical issues that we're having, because we feel as a community, we were already redlined here. They also put I-70, the interstate, through Martindale Brightwood. So that
Oh,
so that
wow.
broke up, yeah. So that broke up the neighborhood. Then we got brownfields everywhere, contaminated soil and properties where we got to get, them remediated, which is gonna cost us 10 to 30,000 a lot to even do that. So it's a lot, man.
So
My
can you
goodness.
tell us what are your biggest need? What are the biggest needs you see in workforce development today?
Well, so I went to a conference in Phoenix back in 2017. Um, it was a joke. Well, it was like an inside joke. Everybody was talking about, called it the Doomsday Conference, which they talked about in 2030 that AI would take 85% of our jobs. Now, this is 2017 when I'm at this conference on workforce development. I was like, oh man, that's years down the road. That's years down the road. Now in 2026, I'm seeing evidence of AI taking these jobs. You got um, 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 UPS laying off 30,000 employees. You got FedEx laying off 11,000, and Amazon, and you go to a McDonald's, and nobody's at the cash register. You got to do everything at the kiosk. You go to the airport. They got all these kiosks, and it's like, wow, this is really happening. So now my thing is, okay, in 2026, we have to start teaching on AI and how, as humans, one, how are we going to navigate it, through our jobs. But then, it's already taking blue collar jobs, and I'm hearing now it's starting to take white collar jobs. So what jobs are going to be available, in the next 5 years? I don't know, honestly. So um, I'm not going to say that I'm against AI and technology, but I do know that at times it does dumb us down, and like we just get dependent on it rather than using it as a tool, but not be as dependent on it. Um, so I don't know what workforce looks like. This is it's kind of scary to me, because yeah, especially for the individuals who aren't as educated, maybe are high school dropouts. Like, what are they truly going to do, in the next 5 to 10 years? But also, even with education and going to college and in a university, it's like, are these degrees going to be even worth something? I remember me growing up. There were a few degrees that weren't nothing. So now we have AI that can um, um, they can go in a courtroom and debate and you know like be the lawyer, be the defense attorney, and things like that. So it's like, okay, so where is this world going to, in the next 5 to 10 years? Because I mean, this AI and this technology is rapidly, growing, getting better. I mean, now they're talking about, the AI bots are, talking to each other, and that they form their own language. They done built their own social media site. They done formed their own religion, and I'm like, what is this?
Well,
So
you're exactly right.
so I really don't have an answer. I mean, it's like I'm living in real time with this. I'm using AI um, to edit, a email to make it sound a little better. Um, you know, I run it through it to check my grant, make sure I got all the proper information in my grant or in my proposals. But but like I'm only scratching the surface. So I guess one, we need to just know and understand AI, embrace it, but don't get fooled or bamboozled to think that it won't take your job, or I mean, and or do other things. So I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. But at times I do go down rabbit holes, and some things that I've seen on TikTok and on YouTube. It's kind of scary.
Well,
So.
you have a right to do that if you know the truth, because it's concerning, because there's so much in going into using AI, and some people are not using it properly. Some
Hmm.
people are not using it efficiently.
Hmm.
And so just with that, it's just so much to it that it takes so much time. But as
Yes.
you were just mentioning this, so like when it comes to the people that you work for and you served in your community, how do you approach building programs that create real impact?
Well, um, one thing about me now, I used to be a person. Um, I'm very task and goal oriented. That's kind of just my personality, who I am. So early in my career, it was all about reaching the goal, reaching the goal, reaching the goal, and then I kind of moved now towards best practice. So I reach my goal, but then I evaluate the program or the training, but then from there, from the results or from the survey, now looking at best practice, and the reason I look at best practice now is with best practice, I can share it with others so they can implement it and they can apply it, to their programming or to their organization. So that's kind of where I'm at now, making sure that we do good evaluation, and then from there, okay, how can I share these outcomes and these results to others so they can develop and implement programming, like what we're doing now, but also, extracting others' best practices to make our program better. Um, so that old saying, each one reach one, each one teach one. That's kind of what my philosophy is, because I mean, just with technology now, what we were doing 5 years ago, we're not doing now, or even what we were doing 10 years ago, you know. So in program development, it's like, okay, we we have to continue to educate ourselves, to learn, because we we can't be stuck in the past or doing old practices. We have to be current in what we do, but also and how we're learning as well. So that's why it's like I'm not against AI or new technology, because I mean it's just part of this world, but we still have to integrate ourselves with it so we can move forward within the 21st century. So in saying all of that, you know, um, doing a good evaluation of program and training, but also taking that information, making it best practice so you can share it with others.
So, but again, just sticking a little bit more here with what you were talking about with the workforce development. Um, can you tell us what skills are most essential for individuals entering today's workforce?
Well, um, I would probably say honestly, and this is in any and every type of, I think, industry or field, you have to be coachable.
Hmm.
You you have to be willing to learn, to humble yourself. Even if you know a lot, you don't know everything. So being open minded. Um, I had um, a little analogy. Uh, way back in the day when I used to actually teach job training, um, and I would ask my class, um, is frying fries everywhere? And then everybody was like, yeah, all you gotta do is put the fries in and cook them, and you're done. But then I would ask them, I was like, are McDonald's fries the same as Wendy's? And then they'll be like, no. I said, okay. The Wendy's fries are thicker than McDonald's fries. So if you cook McDonald's fries the same way you would cook Wendy's fries, so those McDonald's fries will be burnt because they're thinner. So it doesn't take as long to cook them. And everybody was like, it was like a aha moment for everybody. But so in saying that, I mean, that's the same thing in this world that we're living in today. I mean, even though that you may know or understand the industries change, throughout the years and throughout the time. So what you knew 10 years ago, may not be, what it is in the current, so that's why I say you have to be coachable, even though you may think you know everything, you don't. So be coachable, be open-minded, but also, and what I'm dealing with now and working with, different organizations, entities, and things like that, um, you cannot be a dictator. You have to be, um, um, collaborative. You have to want to work with others in the nonprofit world now, especially in Indiana. I don't know, well, in Indianapolis, um, like we have our funders that we get, that we provide grants to get funding. Now our funders and foundations are going after the same grants. You know, so that pot of money that we would get, 10, 20 years ago, we're getting, one third of it now, or one fourth, or even one fifth of it, you know. So we can't sustain like that as an organization. So now we have to look at, okay, who's out there either doing the same work or doing different work where we can partner with, except for us trying to do everything now. So that's kind of how the landscape is. So it's saying, and taking it back to the workforce, you know there's going to be times, at your job where you're going to have to collaborate with others. You may have the best idea, and your best idea may have been proven, that it works. But if you're outvoted, or if others may think that another, idea is better, okay, take a step back. Don't get mad. Don't be mad at the individual. try to work with them and learn from them rather than kind of being, stuck on or just being stubborn on, hey, I think my idea is better and we should go this route. No, if like I said before, you can't be a dictator. You can't just say my idea is the best. Now you follow me, you do this. Nah, be open-minded, be coachable, but also collaborate with others because you can move further, with help rather than kind of going by yourself and being siloed.
So let's transition over to your work here in entrepreneurship and your business development. What inspired your 21-year journey as an entrepreneur?
You said what started it?
What inspired it?
Oh, inspired it. Yeah. Well, what inspired it was my marketing class. We had to do a project on how to develop a business plan.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where ours all started. You know, my dorm room and dorm was like the party room. so, so so like on my dorm floor, we used to cover all the lights and it'd be pitch black, and we had the music playing and the strobe lights and all that. Um, so I was like, okay, well, let's develop a promotional and entertainment business. So it all started with me doing that, say college assignment, and then that formed. Um, that was an assignment, and it formed to an actual business plan, which then we followed, and we were doing business. So like I said earlier, we me and my guy Bradley Stewart had CNC Productions. So we would throw parties on campus, off campus, rap battles, basketball tournaments. We will host. So that's kind of really the inception of it. It started from a class assignment to, hey, this is how business works. I'm learning, and then we just implemented everything through our through our business plan.
So, how do you help aspiring entrepreneurs turn ideas into sustainable businesses?
Well, from my experience, facilitating trainings on entrepreneurship, doing business coaching, it all starts with market research. Um, Unfortunately, in our community, we kind of just go out and do business blindly, um, or we have friends or families kind of hype us up or geek us up, say, oh, you can cook real good, go ahead and start you a restaurant. And you know nothing about business, you know nothing about the restaurant business. And it's like, hold on, pump your brakes. Okay. Research what industry that you are actually going into. Understand who's your target market. Understand who are your competitors. Understand what are your price points. So we just don't do that as a community at times. I probably worked with over my years, hundreds of entrepreneurs, and I would probably say about 80% of them did no market research. They just did it because they know how to make some money, but also it was more of a hustle for them than a business. And with me, like, I don't want to grow your business. I want to grow your business acumen. I want to grow your mind because anybody. So when you are a business owner and your business fails, at times you don't know what to do because you were just a business owner. I want you to really have that business acumen so you can be an entrepreneur. So if one business fails, then you can do additional research to start another business, do additional research to start another business. So for me, I'm a serial entrepreneur. In college, I had the entertainment and promotional business. But then from there, when I graduated, that's when I started my consulting business and doing business coaching when I first started. But then after that, working in nonprofit for over 20 years, shoot, um, I started to add additional services like grant writing, proposal writing, program development. So I started adding services, and then from there, me and all my siblings came together and my cousin, to start a food service business, which we had food service. We did catering, and we had a food truck, and then from there, I met my wife, got married. I said, man, I can't be working 40 days at my job and another 40, 60 hours on this food truck and this food service. I got to stop something, so I stopped the food service business. And then from there, I really picked up my consulting businesses and my consulting business back up again, because it was more of a lighter load on me, because I didn't have to, because with the food service business, we would go out of town to different, festivals and different events, throughout the Midwest. So I'll leave Friday. I won't come back to Monday morning, 2, 3 in the morning, and got to get right back up at 9 in the morning, go to work. So I had to pivot and shift that. And then now that I'm in the development business, I have property, and for 8 years, I didn't know what to do with it, because I was green. I didn't have, development experience. Now that I'm 3 years in, in development, rehabbing and doing full renovations and doing new builds. So, oh, okay. Well, I think I may start me a development business now. I already have property. Me and my wife want to own additional property and so try to get in real estate. So, hey, now this is my platform, for that. So, so in saying all of that, understanding your market, doing the research, understanding your customer, what are the price points for your product and or service, but then educate yourself on different industries. So if this fails, then you still have opportunity over here.
Mhm. So, what are some of the things that you would like for people out in the audience that are watching to get in the gist of what you were just speaking about, that entrepreneurship, ability to get a grasp on business and how to handle
Uh, you're asking me that one more time? I'm sorry.
it? What are some of the things that you like for people out in the audience, especially those that are in your area that you help support? What would you want them to learn more about entrepreneurship, how to navigate it, especially in some of those difficult situations? What are some of the nuggets that they should get from what you was just
Yeah.
mentioning about your experience?
Yes. Um, Whatever will go wrong will. So prepare one for failure. Um, I had a formula that I would teach in my class for entrepreneurs, but also in the workforce, and that is X plus Y equals Z, and that is one, you learn from your mistakes, and then from learning from your mistakes, you improve from your mistakes. And then if you improve from your mistakes, then you will be successful. So embrace failure. That's how you embrace it, because entrepreneurs, I don't know one entrepreneur that didn't fail in something, you know. So so in saying that, you learn from it. And as you learn, then the ultimate goal is to improve what you've learned.
There you
And
go.
after you improve it, then 9 out of 10, it will be successful. Now, will you fail again? Yes. Okay. So that's just a lifelong journey in entrepreneurship. Everything would not be status quo. Everything would not be the same, throughout. You know, um, even like for my father, like I said, he's been in business for over 40 years. But the height of his business was all through the 80s and into the mid 90s, you know. And then from there, things started to decline. He moved in different stores and different brick and mortars. But at the same time, he didn't give up, and he hasn't given up. My father is 80 years old, still selling clothes, even though that the market has changed, even though people are purchasing, like me, purchasing clothes online and waiting for them to be delivered, but he doesn't care. He's gonna go out there, sell his clothes, rain, sleet, snow, sunshine. So understanding that plans may fail, so definitely have that backup plan. Just not have an A plan, but have an A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z. Because you never know what may hit, but also what may be a failure. So learn from your failures, improve from them, so you can be successful within the long run. But also, if your main focus is just getting money, I would advise you to get a job, because at least in a job, you get paid every 2 weeks. You got some guaranteed money. Okay. Your focus shouldn't just be getting money, because anybody can just get some money. Your focus should be for the love of this business, for the love of this product or service. So if and when you don't make money, you won't just fall out and quit, because there are going to be times, there are going to be seasons within your business that the cash flow may not be there, the inventory may not be there, you physically may not be there because you may be sick, you may be out of town at a funeral or anything. So if your focus on is just making money, then I would recommend just get a job. But if your focus on you want to make change, you want to improve yourself, your family, and your community without making money, then that's the business that you should be in. But do that market research so you can be successful.
Mhm. So let's talk a little bit about your youth development and community engagement. What drew you to youth development early in your career?
Okay, you hear me now? You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
I was
I was
just
switching
asking you
out.
what.
Go ahead. I'm
So,
sorry.
what drew you to youth development early in your career?
Yes. So um, I was actually in college. Broke, didn't have no money, and I finally got a job at Red Lobster. Me and all my guys. It was probably about 5 or 6 of us, but we got the job like towards the end of the school year. So basically, school was out, everybody went home, but we stayed down there to work. Unfortunately, at the time, we were homeless. So we was kind of living out of my guy's trunk. Um, but we got a job, and we would get paid weekly. So from there, I called home just to check on my mother and my father, see how they were, and she was like, "Man, I ain't heard from you in 3 4 weeks. Where you been?" I'm like, "I'm down here working." So at the time, the church I was going to, we had a summer camp. Um, so my pastor, he wanted me to be a camp counselor. So I was like, all right, cool. So I got a job back at home now for the summer. So they did say that when I come back from the summer break, then I'll still be able to work there. So I was like, cool. So I went home, and that kind of really started my journey in working with youth as a youth counselor. So I started that back when I was probably about I say about 20. And then from there, I worked as a youth counselor for back-to-back summers. Then I had an opportunity to work with another, because at the time as a youth counselor, I was working. They were like they were 9 and 10-year olds, so like fourth and fifth grade. So like I said, I did that for 2 years, and then from there, I was an intern at a program called Bling, and that was an acronym for Business Leadership in the Next Generation. So we would so that was my first stint in teaching individuals or youth how to start and operate their own business. Um, so with that, I went from an intern, and the next year I was staff. The following year, I was co-director, and then that fourth and final year, I was director of the program. So, and then from there, working with youth at the church that I belonged to back then, at Oasis of Hope Baptist Church. I would help youth with their math. Well, I used to tutor youth, so kind of so help them with their math, and then. Um, and then from there, just really, had an affinity to really help and develop youth. I was also a youth football coach for 8 years as well. So my first year coaching was in Terre Haute at Chauncey Rose, and then I came up to Indianapolis after I graduated and coached at the Wheeler Dow Boys and Girls Club. Um, so yeah, so just starting off as a camp counselor, then working with youth and starting businesses, and then coaching, and then currently now at the church I attend, Little Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, we have our Boys Rites of a Passage program where we help and serve our youth from 6 years old through 18.
Mm. So, and just talking a little bit here also about your financial coaching and economic mobility. What inspired you to become a certified credit counselor?
Well, one, it was part of the job, so thankful to get that certification on the job. But um, you know, my first few years as um, when I actually started my career within nonprofit, I was a job coordinator. So I was that maybe about 3 to 4 years, and then when I actually transitioned to work at the Edmond Christian Center, which now I've been there for 14 and a half years. My first position there was a financial coach. So just having a background in business, it really helped me out, but I still didn't know a whole lot about financial coaching. I mean, I wasn't a financial advisor, but I was a financial coach. So I would help individuals, get their credit together to become a homeowner, but also help them with paying their old debt, or just kind of helping them, budget their money. So this is really kind of being a certified, credit counselor really helped my development and my growth as a financial coach. So very, thankful for that opportunity.
And so, so your work there in community service, ministry, and your personal mission. Can you tell us what motivates you to serve in your church as a deacon and trustee?
Yeah. So I was appointed a deacon. It'd be 8 years in December, and then I was a trustee about a year or two, after that. So, um, I mean, the great thing about it is, I really wanted to, have a better a better relationship with God. I wanted to do more within the church. Our church actually has a center as well, a community center. Matter of fact, Little Bethel Crosstown Community Center, in which when I first joined, I was kind of appointed, like I was appointed on the board of the community center. And then from there, like I said, I wanted to be more involved, with the church, and my Pastor Shalman Rafford, did ask me and appoint me as a deacon. So going through deacon in training process 7.5 years ago, just understanding more about the church, and kind of like the back end of the church, things you don't kind of really see outside of Sunday mornings, or Wednesdays at Bible study, or Sunday school, was very intriguing to me. And my whole life honestly has a is about service. I don't, call myself a servant leader. I just call myself a servant. Because at times, when you, especially for men, when we add that leader part on it, that's kind of where our egos kind of creep in. So I don't say I'm a servant leader. I just say I'm a servant, and then just kind of everything that I do, I serve. In the nonprofit world and realm, I'm serving the community. As a deacon at my church, the definition of a deacon is a servant minister. So I'm serving, through that way. I had, like I said, a food service business where we had a catering and food truck. I'm serving my customers food. So my whole life truly is about being a servant and making others better, by the way of God and everything that He's done and provided for me.
So when we was discussing, bring you on the show, one thing I remember I mentioning to you is that we do Black History 365.
Mhm.
And when I ask you in Black history, who was the most influential person in your life and career, you said to me, it's your father, Franklin D. Ivey. In the context of Black history, how has your father shaped your understanding of leadership?
Well, um, my father, never gave up and or never used excuses for his deficiencies. Like I said, my father's 80. He's old school. Barely graduated high school, if he ever really did. Illiterate, and to see him, um, man, to see him, provide for six children, six of us. Well, it was my oldest brother was killed, but to provide for us, to have every child go to college or had an opportunity to go to college, to have a few of us actually graduate from college, but all of us, had businesses or was in business with each other. So everything that he did and that he taught us, I mean, you can literally see that in every single one of my siblings. And for me, um, you know, I call myself the favorite. and 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 I'm not saying that because they said I was a favorite, but I'm a mirror image. I'm a splitting image of my father and my mother. My father being an entrepreneur, being a deacon at the church, my mother, being a case manager, case manager. She was the manager of the case managers, working in nonprofit, taught Sunday school. I teach and do our boys' rights of passage program at my church. It's I'm literally like a split image of them, but just my father, man, and his leadership, knowing that, I mean, he pushed us to go to school. Even, I always say, my father was literate and went to college, he would have been like the black Walmart, because in our boutique, we sold everything. We sold clothes, accessories, jewelry, incense. My father actually, start going over to Africa in the '90s and doing, import and export. So the clothes that didn't sell in season, he would ship over there and barter and trade. So he'll get raw gold, silver, African artifacts to bring back here and sell, So and just to see that back in the '90s, the import and export, being international, going over to Africa and building relationships with the locals, with the different tribes, with the government there, going to Ghana, to Liberia, uh, Liberia, Senegal. I mean, all West Africa. And it's like, wow, Daddy, you and my daddy was a sharecropper. He
Oh,
would
wow.
he would he would help his
Mm.
grandmother because my father from Chattanooga, Tennessee. His grandmother, my great grandmother, was from Mississippi. So he'll go down there in Mississippi, and and pick cotton. You know what I'm saying? Him and my uncles and him. So it's like, wow, Dad, pick cotton back in the 1940s and 50s to now be in business for over 40 years. I mean, my father's a well-known name, especially on the east side of Indianapolis. But like I said, being the first hip hop urban clothing store in Indianapolis back in the 1970s up until now, currently, it's just amazing to me.
So, what lessons from your father continue to guide your work today?
I think honestly is to treat everybody honest and fair. Um, that's kind of just who I am. I don't care who you are. I'm gonna treat you fair. I'm gonna treat you like you are somebody. Um, and but then also, be a man of your word. I mean, that's he will always say that to me. And if you say you're gonna do something, do it, and then do it right the first time. Because when you don't do it right the first time, that's more labor, that's more time, that's more money that you got to spend or do if you don't do it, the first time right. So, be a man of your word, do things the first time right, but then also all you have is your name. That's it. So my father has a good name in Indianapolis, and that's always been my goal. Now, do people, you know, not like me? Yeah. Do people hate on me? Yeah. But I got family that's hated on me. I got friends that's hated on me. You know what I mean? So it's not like kind of what I've done to them. It's just, I mean, that's just life, and that's how people are at times. But really having that good name out there, you know, um, takes you a long way. So that's what I really, try to keep my word. I try to do everything to my best ability, but also just, keeping a good name, and having my parents, but also, my wife and my two sons proud of me.
I love your humbleness.
Mm,
That displays lots and lots of character. And
thank
that says a lot about a person. A lot of people don't understand that though.
you. Mm, thank
Um,
you.
how did your father's example influence your commitment to community service?
Um, to continue to do it, no matter what, I've I had an example when I was when I was doing my turkey drive down at Indiana State. I saw that the little hens or little small chickens were cheaper than buying a whole turkey. So except buying 100 turkeys, I bought like 250 hens, small chickens. So we in line. I mean, people are lined up. I'm passing the stuff out, and this man said, "This ain't no turkey. I don't want this," and kind of threw it back at me.
Really?
Now, yeah. Now I'm younger at this time. I'm in my younger 20s. So the hot headed man. I had to remember who I was. I say Manuel, and then I like we did it at the church I was attending. So it's like I couldn't cuss this man out or act belligerent. But I was like, wow. And then, calmly, I was like, "Well, sir, if you don't want this, then I'll just give it to the next person." And then he took it back from me, and this came out. So in saying that, in the nonprofit world and doing this community work, some people are just not appreciative of what resources or services that they're getting, and at times you just can't blame that person. So you really have to kind of look past their faults and or things that they may not understand or know, but still move forward with it, because community work is some of the hardest work out there to do, especially on a daily basis, because you getting everybody's burdens, everybody's problems sent to you or on you, and then they expect you to solve every single problem right then and there.
Yep.
Now it may have took them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get to this point, but they don't care about that. They want you to solve their problem right then and there. And a lot of times we can't. So but at the same time, when you do get those wins, when you do see those individuals progressing and developing, I mean, it's so many times I may go to a store or go to an event. Hey, Mr. Ivey, I finally got that job, or man, I finally got married. I got a whole family now. And so, I mean, just to hear the stories and their testimonies, it keeps me in this work because doing community work, you cannot have instant gratification because it will not come instantly. It takes a long time. It's a marathon rather than a race.
So in closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement, you have for our audience, how they can connect with you via your social media, your website, all of that good information that they should know?
Um, well, to be honest, just go to my LinkedIn. It's Emmanuel Ivey. That's my personal and business and professional social media. So um, I don't know the link. Just Google LinkedIn and then search Emmanuel Ivey, and then you should find me. Um, you know, got a got this big old bald head, so I'm easy to find. um, but I think at the end of the day, either in business, in a career, in the community, and or in life, things may not go your way or as planned. But what I do say, and what I have said in a lot of my trainings, is one, keep your faith. Like I said, I am a believer in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, so I'm gonna keep my faith. Um, but also have a plan, but not just have one plan, have several plans, knowing that plan A, B, and C may not work, but you still got plan D, F, G, Z that you can fall back on. But then last, utilize all of your resources. You cannot do this alone. There's a lot of resources out here that can help you out as an entrepreneur, that can help you find a job within the workforce, but also that can help you, do the community work or be involved with the community. So really search and look for those resources that can help you, your family, or whoever, grow and develop within life, within your career, or within your business.
Well, I'd like to say this before I close. I want to thank you for being here and sharing with us not only just your story, but your journey and how you were able to not just display the resilience in being an entrepreneur, but the things to get to this point.
Mhm.
I think it was so important when you mentioned the part about, you start, you get knocked down, but you keep going because a lot of people don't realize that, don't understand that. And as you mentioned also, especially with men, young men especially, that ego kicks in and that ego tells you all the wrong things
Yeah.
at the wrong time. But hey, it's one of those things that when we learn and we keep going, but we keep doing the things that we know that we're passionate about and we do it. So in doing this closing monologue that I'm about to do, I want to make sure that the audience as well as yourself. I want you to make sure that in just listening to this, that this is about what it is to be a part of the journey that you displayed. Tonight's conversation reminds us that leadership is not always loud. Sometimes it is steady, consistent, and rooted in service. Emmanuel Ivey represents the kind of leadership that transforms communities from the inside out. His work in workforce development, entrepreneurship, financial coaching, youth empowerment, and ministry reflects a commitment to life, to lifting people up, not just in theory, but in practice. and the influence of his father, Franklin D. Ivey, reminds us that Black history is not only found in textbooks, it is found in our homes, our families, and the everyday heroes who shape our lives. As we close, let us honor the spirit of service, the power of opportunity, and the leaders who dedicate their lives to building stronger communities. The work continues, and so does the movement. Good night, family. Stay inspired, stay committed, stay empowered. I'm your host, Charles King. This has been America in Black and White. We will see you guys tomorrow night for another great show. You all have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you again.
Thank you.